Alright guys, here comes chapter 10 of Half Upon a Time. Jack sighed, grabbed May's lollipop from the floor, and knocked the cackling witch on the head. May, meanwhile, grabbed one of the peppermint chairs and slammed it down into the peanut brittle floor to hold the door shut just in time. The chair crunched into place just as one of the little giggling monsters outside pushed the door open, its little hand reaching in. As the chair slammed the door shut again, the creature's cry of pain harmonized eerily with the witch's. "There's no escape, my darlings," the witch screamed. "My children will not let you leave until they've eaten their fill." "Can you shut her up?" May yelled. Jack swung the lollipop again, but this time the witch was ready. Her cracked eggshell mouth grabbed the lollipop and crunched down, biting it in half. "Gah!" Jack shouted, dropping his half of the lollipop. "I took her down on my first try, you know," May pointed out. "She's not the main concern," Jack said. "We need to find something to use against her children." As he spoke, they could hear loud scraping sounds on the door, followed by little plaintive cries, as if the witch's children were babies crying for milk. "What about that?" May said, pointing at the curved knife the witch had been using to cut open Jack's clothing when he first woke up. "We might want to think bigger," he said. "One knife's not going to protect us very long against all those creatures." "Fine," May said. She paused, then grabbed Jack and pulled him toward a small door in the corner of the house. "We still have all the non-candy tools in the closet, though," she said, yanking the door open. "Maybe there's something in here we can use as a weapon." Jack made his way over to her, dodging random gardening equipment she threw out of the closet. A hoe, a saw, a rake. None of these were big enough. There was some wood for the fire still not enough. Oh, his grandfather's bag. Jack grabbed it as it flew by and threw it over one shoulder. May hadn't stopped, though. A hammer whizzed by his leg, followed by a broom, then a metal pot. "A broom? Hold on," Jack yelled, spinning around to pick up the broom. He hated to use magic, but it didn't look like they had much of a choice. May tossed a few other assorted instruments out of the closet, then turned around. "What?" she said. "That hammer is no better than the knife." "Not the hammer," Jack said. "The broom. That's our way out." Outside, the clawing grew louder, and not just at the door. It sounded as if the creatures were trying to claw or eat their way right through the walls of the house. Apparently, the poison didn't affect them. "Are you still drugged on candy?" May asked, narrowing her eyes. "You do realize that's for sweeping, right?" "Don't you know anything?" Jack said. "How do you think witches get around?" "Don't touch that," the witch cried out, struggling harder against the licorice bindings. "One more word and you're going in the oven," May said, then turned to Jack. "You're saying witches actually ride around on brooms?" she asked. "When I grow up?" "Wow, how old school." Jack shrugged. "It's tradition." "So how does it work?" May said, taking the broom from him. She straddled the handle and began hopping around the room with it under her. "Giddy up," she shouted. "Let's go. Bippity boppity." "Don't just yell out magic words," Jack shouted at her. Did she even know what she was saying? Who knew what spell she might cast? "I think we're safe," May said as she came to a stop. "And apparently I just ran around on a regular broom. Great idea, genius." Jack grabbed the broom and looked it over, thinking. Finally, he shrugged, held it horizontally at shoulder level in both hands, then brought the broom down as hard as he could toward his knee, as if he were going to break it in half. Just before it hit his knees, the broom leapt out of Jack's hands and into the air with a squeal. It bucked wildly, then tore off around the cottage, madly flying in every direction like a trapped insect looking through a window. May threw herself out of its way, but as the broom tore past Jack, he jumped up and grabbed it with both hands, holding on tight. The broom didn't even slow down, continuing its frantic dash around the cottage, only now dragging Jack along with it. "Little help?" he asked as he flew by May. The princess grabbed Jack on the next go around, and between the two, they managed to pull the broom back down to the floor. "I think I figured out how to make it go," Jack said, grunting as he held the still struggling broom with both arms. "How'd you know it would do that?" May asked, tentatively approaching the broom, which seemed to be calming down a bit. "It was just a guess," he said. "I figured I'd try scaring it, see if that got any reaction out of it." "Just a small one," May said, reaching out to pet the broom. As she touched it, the broom jerked a bit, then quieted down as if it were a frightened cat. "Where'd you learn this stuff anyway?" "School mostly," he said with a shrug. "The rest is just common sense." "Glad you caught the witch lesson," May said, still petting the broom, which now seemed to be purring. Suddenly, the lollipop chair holding the door closed, bumped backwards. Fortunately, the chair struck briefly in the peanut brittle, falling back into place after the initial jolt. A second hit from outside, though, knocked the chair completely out of the way just as Jack leapt forward and smashed the chair back into place. The chair's legs cracked a bit, but held firmly in the sticky floor. May turned from the front door back to the broom. Right, she said, time to go. As she straddled the broom again, Jack quickly grabbed the knife from the table and threw it into his bag. It wasn't much, but it couldn't hurt. Ready to try this? He asked May as he threw a leg over the broom behind her. Not even a little bit, she said, turning around to look at Jack. Let's go. Before Jack could respond, another hit sent the chair skidding across the floor as the door banged open. Seeing the creatures for the first time, Jack gasped. The witch had called them children, but these creatures looked nothing like any child he'd ever seen. Yes, they were small, no more than 2 feet tall, but not many kids in his village had sharpened fangs and claws. Also, most children he knew didn't have empty sockets where their eyes should have been. Even without eyes, though, every one of the witch's children managed to look at him hungrily. And that is the end of chapter 10. Come back tomorrow for chapter 11. See ya.